Chapter 3. Shelves overloaded with beeping machinery lined the laboratory walls. Beep, beep, beep. Pulsing green lines scrolled across the monitors. Beep, beep, beep. Beakers, flasks, and Bunsen burners were scattered everywhere. In a corner, a cage, metal bars, a padlock on the latch. Inside, standing on its hind legs, a T-Rex hatchling. Professor Ob wore a pair of spectacles that made him look like a mad scientist from an old horror flick. He was a workaholic, a grind. He slept very little, 4-5 hours at most. By day he ran experiments, by night he hunted vampires, a frantic pace of life. Up until then he had dug up 6 corpses, men and women, all vampires. He had burned their bodies, reducing them to ash. The moka pot on the stove began to sputter. A drop trickled down the side and sizzled against the scorching metal. The aroma of coffee filled the lab. Crack! Thunder rumbled from distant abysses of clouds. Professor Ob, with a grim smirk of satisfaction, contemplated the T-Rex hatchling staring at him from behind the bars. Outside it started to rain. The drops pitter-pattered against the window pane. Professor Ob filled his mug to the brim. He took a sip of coffee. "I did it!" he shouted aloud. "I cloned a dinosaur!" He paused, then grinned. "I'm gonna win the fucking Nobel Prize!" "I wouldn't count on it," a voice said behind him. Professor Ob spun around. In his fright, he dropped the mug. The coffee splattered across the floor. Silence. Who are you?" he stammered. "And how the fuck did you get in here?" The vampire stared at him, motionless. His face was white as a sheet. His expression stone cold. Professor Ob reached behind one of the benches. He fumbled to find the Remington M11 he kept there for emergencies. "Looking for this?" the vampire said, hoisting a familiar shotgun. Professor Ob's jitters turned into pure panic. The vampire smiled. His teeth were sharp and terrifying. "I'm gonna blow a hole in your gut," the vampire growled. "Please, don't shoot," Professor Ob pleaded. "A massive hole!" the vampire shot back. Professor Ob fell to his knees and began to beg. "No, please, don't do it." Instead of aiming the weapon at him, the vampire shoved the barrel into his own mouth and pulled the trigger. Bang! The blast made the window panes rattle. The T-Rex hatchling let out a sound that started as a growl and turned into a shrill whimper. Professor Ob, shaking like jelly, approached the body sprawled on the floor. His intent was to grab the shotgun and empty the whole damn magazine into that prick. The moment his fingers brushed the stock of the weapon, the vampire sprang up with a leap. "Oh, Christ!" Professor Ob cried out. The vampire, his head half blown apart, pulled out a match and struck it. "What the fuck are you doing with that match?" Professor Ob screamed. The vampire glanced around, as if deciding which container to toss the match into. Finally, he chose one. It contained a highly flammable solvent. Kraboom! The entire building went up in flames.